So if somebody is listening and they're like unsure about their drinking, maybe it's like a little bit of a problem, but they're not sure if they're drinking alcoholically or not. What is that differentiation?
That's a great question. So if I always say to people, like, if you hear that whisper that something's off, it doesn't feel the same, it's not serving you, you're concerned about it, any of those things, then it's worth looking into. Whether it's just something that doesn't agree with you or it is actually becoming unmanageability in not one part of your life, but maybe all of your lives, not just with your friends, with your family, but work and all of these things. And a lot of people have a case of the yets, which I call yetism, which is, well, I haven't gotten pulled over yet, and I haven't lost my job yet, and I haven't done this yet. And the yetism, especially now, is so dangerous because there is no sort of hitting bottom these days. A lot of times it just ends with tragedy one time. And so I really try to say, like, just get off at the 5th floor like a lady. Like, you don't have to go all the way down to the sub basement and see what's up. But really the difference between heavy drinking or problem drinking or the disease of addiction is that once you've had one drink, once that's entered into your system, if you lose the ability to make a cognitive decision with your prefrontal cortex, and even knowing the consequences, and even knowing that you maybe want to go home early, or you want to stop at 3 drinks, or you want to do X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't go according to plan every time, and you wake up feeling like, I would in my quote unquote right mind never have done that, then you might want to look at, well, I've lost the ability to go from the reptilian part of my brain, which is telling me I need this amount of dopamine, which is an incredibly high amount of dopamine that we don't normally have in our body, or I still have the ability to control it.
Yeah, that was me. Like, I always say that I could never, with any kind of accuracy, predict when or how or why I was going to stop. Not never, usually.
Correct.
And the tricky part was that sometimes I could. I would always say I'm going to have 2 drinks and be home at 10. That was my thing. And more times than not, it was the next day or 6 in the morning or whatever, and it's 10 drinks. But sometimes I would do 2 drinks and be home at 10, sometimes even 1 drink home at 9. And that really messed with me because then I used that as evidence for actually why this isn't a problem, So I think that a lot of people experience that too, where like sometimes it's problematic and sometimes it's not.
Yes, I agree. And I think sometimes is lead to the yetism, right?
True. Yeah.
And the issue is that addiction is a brain disease. And this we know, like, we're really not in a, discussion about whether it's morality or a disease or not anymore.
Some people are.
I know, but
probably some people listening.
But I think that if the truth is, for those that are listening that don't feel that way, I want to honor that and say it's so complex. So there is an aspect of it that is affecting the way your brain functions on a biological level. There is also a physiological response of craving and tolerance and things like that build up. But then there's also the emotional of, I need something outside of myself in order to make myself feel better, instead of that being an inside job. Because everything we reach for outside of ourselves has an expiration date, whether it's a new pair of shoes or a guy or just anything, right? And it will expire in a week, in a day, in an hour, it doesn't matter. And so that's a piece of it. And then there's the underlying psychological, whether there's real trauma going on that is causing your body to be in fight or flight or needing to anesthetize so you don't do something more serious to yourself or self-harm. So it's such a complex conversation that I think people will hold on to at least one of those, but it's really all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do know is that it gets worse in time as you get older, whether you're using or not. So if you're in the sometime will eventually become no times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that gray area where people really struggle. And I think the other place that people really struggle is the shame of not being able to have self-control and feeling like they should have willpower. And if you're one of those people, I just want to say to you, like, you can be as smart or as willful or as anything, that this happens to, the best of them,
Mm-hmm.
and has nothing to do with that.